We all wrestle with this, don't we? What actually is happiness?
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, how do we find it in, well, this crazy modern world with all its demands and information overload? What if there was a kind of shortcut? Not an easy fix, but a clearer path. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something quite special. It's an ancient source, but surprisingly timeless. We're looking at a discourse called the 48 Buddhist Teachings, given in Thailand, believe it or not, back in October 1954. Our goal here is simple. Unpack these ideas, see what they really mean, and find the practical wisdom in them that hopefully you can use today. Think of it as a way to get straight to the heart of genuine well-being.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? Teachings from, nearly 70 years ago now. And they themselves draw on principles thousands of years old. Yet they speak so directly to what we feel, to the struggles we face right now. This specific discourse, it comes directly from the Buddhist teachings, passed down carefully. The language might feel a bit ancient, sure, but the core insights, yeah, they're incredibly relevant.
That's exactly what pulled me in. So this source, it lays out 5 core teachings.
Right.
Almost like 5 distinct pathways that lead towards happiness. What are these main principles?
That's right. The discourse points to 5 key ways to find happiness in the world. Let me list them out. First, it says non-harming is happiness. Second, restraint towards living beings. Third is freedom from craving. Fourth, transcending sensual pleasures. And the 5th one is removing I-conceit. These 5, sort of woven together, are presented as the way to what the text calls supreme happiness.
Non-harming is happiness in the world. It sounds simple, almost obvious maybe, don't harm people. But what's the deeper layer here? How does that simple idea really connect with, say, the stress we feel, or even how we talk to ourselves?
Well, it's much deeper than it first sounds. It's not just about, not physically hurting someone else. The teaching really emphasizes not harming yourself either. That means physically, sure, but also verbally, mentally. And then it brings it together. Not harming both yourself and others. The core idea is pretty clear. Harm, any kind of harm, it just leads to suffering for everyone involved. And the flip side, non-harming means happiness. Again, for everyone. It creates a space for peace.
Right, so it's about actions, but also words, even thoughts. Like negative self-talk, that's a form of self-harm, isn't it? Or judging others quickly, that harms relationships. You mentioned the text gives examples, showing how this ripples outward.
Exactly. It starts really close to home with the family. The text is blunt. If parents harm each other or kids harm each other, that just destroys the family's happiness. Nothing good can grow there. But if there's kindness, affection, a lack of harm, the family thrives. It's the foundation, then it scales right up. The source makes this powerful claim. If a whole country avoids mutual harm, internally and externally, it will be genuinely happy. And it points to history, specifically mentioning the 2 world wars as examples of, immense suffering, scarcity, death, all stemming from harm on a massive scale. The implication is profound. If non-harming really took hold everywhere, maybe through shared ethics like the 5 precepts the text mentions, you wouldn't need police or courts or guards. It paints this picture of true peace, just emerging naturally.
Wow. And it even applies this to animals. You mentioned fish and birds fighting.
It does, yeah. It notes that when animals fight among themselves, they suffer too, just like humans. It underlines that the principle is truly universal.
Harm causes suffering. Non-harm allows for well-being. Simple, but universal.
Absolutely. It cuts across everything.
And that idea of non-harming, it leads directly into the second principle, doesn't it? Restraint towards living beings. Sounds closely related.
Yes, very closely. Restraint towards living beings. It builds right on that foundation of non-harming. It's about actively cultivating mindfulness, being really aware, and consciously refraining from causing harm to any sentient being. So it's not passive. It's an active, ethical practice, something lay people and monastics often undertake. It's about actively being careful with all life.
Okay, now this next part, this feels really central to modern life. Transcending sensual pleasures and achieving freedom from craving. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because most of us, we chase pleasures, right? So how can transcending them possibly lead to happiness? It seems counterintuitive.
Right. It does seem backwards from our usual way of thinking, but that's where the insight lies. The source defines sensual pleasures pretty clearly. The 5 things that delight our senses. Pleasing sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, we all know them. But the texts call these papenyakadhamma, which is a fascinating term. It basically means things that cause mental proliferation or doctrines that delay us. Delay us from what? From doing genuinely good things like being generous or disciplined or meditating. When we're constantly chasing the next nice sight or sound, we get stuck. Think about it. There's the pleasant thing itself, like a beautiful object. That's the material sensual pleasure. But then comes the craving for it, the wanting it, the attachment. That's the defilement sensual pleasure. And that's the real problem. That craving creates a cycle. A bit of fleeting joy, maybe, but then sorrow when it disappears or we can't get it again.
Ah, okay. So it's not the sunset itself that's bad. It's the desperate clinging, the I need this feeling again part that causes the suffering. That makes a lot more sense. We've all felt that, haven't we? That sort of hollowness after a pleasure fades. So how do we break free? What does the text suggest?
Well, the discourse brings up a powerful tool, jhana. That's deep meditative absorption. It's presented as a way to really rise above these sensual desires. There's this amazing story in the source about a great king. He achieved the first level of jhana called Patezamachana. And the experience of peace, the sheer comfort and insight he found there, it was so overwhelming, so much better than anything else. He actually gave up his throne. He realized that the stillness of jhana was far superior to all the riches, the power, and frankly, the burdens of being king. It just shows how deep meditation can dwarf worldly attractions.
Giving up a kingdom that really flips the script on what we value, doesn't it? So is kaṇḍa the ultimate goal then, the peak?
It's a huge step, incredibly transformative, but according to the source, no, it's not the absolute end of the path. The teaching mentions something even higher than jhana. It's called the Dhammakaya, sometimes translated as the Dharma body or body of enlightenment. Attaining this Dhammakaya, the text says, instantly puts out the fire of craving. Like dunking fire in water. Poof, gone. Because, it clarifies, even in very high spiritual states, even in the meditative absorptions of jhana, there can still be subtle attachments lingering. Real, complete, lasting freedom from all craving only come through progressively deeper stages of this inner awakening. It mentions stages like sotapanna, sakadagami, anagami, culminating in arahantship. At that final stage, arahantship, the mind becomes completely unshakable. The text uses the image of a solid stone pillar, unmoved by anything the world throws at it, good or bad sensory input, gain or loss, praise or blame, happiness or sorrow, just totally steady.
Unshakable. That leads us perfectly into the fifth and final teaching, which sounds quite deep. Removing I-conceit, or Asmimana. This feels very psychological. What exactly is this I-conceit? And why is getting rid of it so crucial for happiness?
Asmimana, yes, it's subtle but so powerful. It's a type of pride, a conceit, but it goes deeper than just arrogance. It stems from that fundamental, often unconscious belief, I exist, I am. It's the I that makes us think our views are best, our way is right. The I that feels slighted or superior or needs to be in control. We might not even notice it, but the text points out how this underlying I-ness causes friction, misunderstanding, and suffering in basically all our relationships, family, work, even spiritual groups. It gets in the way.
So it's not just about trying to be more humble on the surface. It's about tackling something really fundamental about our sense of self. What's the bigger picture here? Why is removing this I-conceit so significant?
Exactly. It's fundamental. The Buddha, according to the tradition, saw this Asmimana, this I-conceit, as a core reason why beings get trapped in the cycle of birth, death, and suffering. Round and round, it's considered the trickiest defilement, the hardest one to completely root out. But its total removal, which happens when someone attains arahantship, brings what the text calls the supreme happiness. It represents true self-mastery. A state where you're no longer bound by self-importance, no longer driven by that illusion of a fixed, separate self. It's a profound freedom because the root of all that self-centered clinging is just gone.
Okay, so putting it all together, these 5 things, non-harming, restraint, letting go of craving, transcending fleeting pleasures, and dissolving that I-conceit. It really forms a complete picture, doesn't it? A kind of roadmap to genuine happiness, much deeper than just feeling good for a moment.
It absolutely does, a comprehensive path. And the source is very clear in contrasting this path with what the world usually tells us to chase. It explicitly warns against seeking happiness through just getting rich or gaining power. It says, for instance, that getting wealthy only brings the burden of protecting the wealth. You worry about losing it. The text literally says money is suffering in that sense. And ruling a country sounds like ultimate success, maybe. But the text compares it to riding a lion. You're constantly afraid of being overthrown, attacked, consumed by the very power you hold. These worldly pursuits, the discourse argues, they aren't paths to happiness at all. They're actually causes of more suffering.
Wow, that's a complete flip from how many of us are taught to think about success, isn't it? It reminds me so much of the story of Prince Siddhartha himself, leaving a palace, leaving power behind to find enlightenment. He embodies this teaching. So these aren't just like lofty philosophical ideas. They're presented as a practical guide for real well-being for you listening right now. So maybe the question to reflect on is this. When you're looking for happiness in your life, where are you looking? Are you chasing things that, according to this ancient wisdom, might actually be sources of stress and suffering? Or are you turning towards things that cultivate genuine, lasting happiness itself?
hmm And that's the final thought from the source, really. The path to that supreme happiness, that unshakable peace, it isn't found by grabbing more of what the world offers. It's found in letting go. Letting go of the things that bind us, the cravings, the conceit, the tendency towards harm. It's a journey beyond fleeting highs and surface achievements. So perhaps ask yourself, what part of these ancient ideas really speaks to you? And what's one small step, maybe, you could think about today towards a happiness that truly lasts?